I'm the CEO of RE Technology. I want to welcome you to today's GoToWebinar. We're really excited to have some extraordinary panelists with us today. This webinar is really designed for brokers. If you happen to be an agent and you're on today's webinar, be sure and share this information with your brokers, but hopefully along the way you're going to learn what some of the largest firms in the nation are doing, not only in real estate but beyond real estate, to use to effectively market to an agent's sphere of influence. Just to get started here, if I could just introduce to you who our panelists will be today. So we have Ken Epstein with us, and he's the director of a company called Retention Science. And what Ken's company does is they work with many of the largest retailers in direct marketing. So they work with firms like Target, Neiman Marcus, Tiffany's, Amazon, Expedia, Disney, Best Buy, Home Shopping Network, Nike, and many other firms. His role in that company is to make sure that those businesses are doing a good job of sending communications to their email marketing lists in ways that not only drive conversion, but also eliminate opt-out. So, there's three components in the triad of effective communication to your sphere of influence. One of them is acquiring people, building your list. The second is providing good information that's actionable so that your conversion is great. And the third is retention, so making sure that people aren't opting out of your list. Joining me as a real estate expert here is Anna Vicioli, I hope I pronounced that correctly. But she's the Vice President of Digital Marketing at Coldwell Banker, so she's sort of the strategist behind everything that Coldwell Banker is doing in terms of developing the information that allows real estate agents that are a member of that franchise organization to market directly to consumers with the right messaging. And joining us also is Bill Yeaman. He's the Vice President of Business Development at a company called Imprev. It's a brand that should be familiar to brokers, but is usually translated through its customers. So they power the e-marketing solutions that you find across many of the enterprise real estate companies in real estate today. So with that, I'd like to just sort of lay out what our agenda is today. If you could advance the slide. We're going to begin by taking a quick poll. We just kind of want to understand the flavor of how you do marketing today. So we're going to launch this poll. I'm going to give it a minute for you to answer, and then we'll be able to deliver you the responses after you've had a chance to do it. So the question is, are you offering your agents some sort of marketing technology today? So realistically, we find real estate brokers, fall into three categories. One category is they do nothing, and agents select their own vendor, do their own thing. The second category is they partner with a firm like Imprev, and they do something. And the third thing is they kind of have a hybrid approach where they offer some components. Some components might come directly from the franchisor, but it's really unclear exactly how e-marketing is managed in their business. Some marketing departments will queue up the marketing and then pass it along to the agent to do with what they will. So if you could just quickly answer the poll, let's see. All right, excellent. So we have some people who are in a quandary. We have about a quarter of us who are not doing this today, and we have about, well, 70% that are doing something. So if we look to the next slide, the way I kind of want to set the table for, you'll have to cancel out the poll real quickly, and then advance the slide. Excellent. So I just want to set the table here with a little bit of understanding. I was in a meeting this morning with a real estate brokerage in Western New York. They have a little over 1,100 sales associates, and we were talking not so much about this specific communication method, but really the butterfly effect that happens when you're running an enterprise-level corporation. So in his marketplace, their CRM solution has between, depending on the office, they have, each sales associate has between 300 and 500 contacts. And then if you understand the measure of that, when you multiply it by 1,000, you recognize that their opportunity to reach a significant audience through email is pretty significant, is stronger than any other vehicle that they might have. The best thing about that is these are known relationships. So you're not shotgun marketing out into space. You're actually marketing directly to a client that you have some type of relationship with. So with that, again, I'd like to introduce Ken Epstein. He's an expert in this area. As I mentioned before, his customers include businesses like Target and Neiman Marcus, who their real goal is to get the right information to the right person at the right time and do it every time. So with that, Ken, welcome. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day to kind of walk us through some of the great techniques that you guys are deploying for your clients.
Okay, thanks, Victor, and thanks all of you for joining in and allowing me to present today. And unlike the other more centric real estate presenters, my area of expertise really is focused on working with large retail and commerce brands and helping them identify and profile their customers. And what that does, it allows them to improve and personalize their marketing efforts to retain and increase the value of each customer. So there's many differences between e-commerce sites, brick-and-mortar businesses, and the real estate industry. But I think we all need to understand what the large brands are doing to better communicate and personalize their messaging to their customers. I think that should be of interest to each of you. And as Victor mentioned, some of the brands I've worked with include some of the larger retailers and e-commerce sites out there like Target, Nike, Amazon, and others on this list. And most of these brands are experts in profiling these customers and using data science and machine learning, which are technologies that I'll talk about a little bit later. But the end result is a greater understanding of their customers' behaviors and habits. And one of marketers' biggest problems they face is customer churn, and I think in the real estate world you'll agree that's a problem. No one really argue that. And a major reason, at least on the e-commerce side and retail side, is that companies invest very, very heavily in new customer acquisition. But when they actually know a lot about their customer, they don't invest as much in retaining that customer. So in our opinion, most companies need to focus on what they know about their customers versus acquiring new customers where they know nothing about them. And there's companies that are doing this right. And I think in everyday life, a lot of you are Amazon or Netflix customers. Nordstrom's does a good job. But in all, Amazon employs about 400 data scientists just to help predict what customers like you and I like and dislike. And e-commerce businesses and retailers that don't use data science, and that applies to the real estate world, will eventually be Amazon to death over time. And just a quick note on really how this works, but the way that brands personalize an experience for their customers is they collect and aggregate data from dozens of sources, including social data, demographic data, transactional and behavioral data. And you can take data from site visits and as well as from third parties that track activity on sites like Facebook or Instagram, for example. And all of that data then is presented to a data scientist or a team, and they utilize machine learning, which is just computers really, to help build a full profile of each customer. And through predictive modeling, they can create categories or segments, and segmentation is something that I think will be a powerful message for each of you. But they can segment each type of customer and create groups such as high-value customers, customers that are about to churn, and that allows the brands the ability to target messages more accurately to each segment. And every time a customer interacts with your brand or visits your site, the modeling and algorithm changes so that the brand or you can deliver the most relevant and personal experience possible. One of our clients that we work with, this is what they do to segment their customer base. So Beats, which is a headphone manufacturer now owned by Apple, separates its customers into segments so it can market more effectively. So you've got high-end LeBron who has a much higher lifetime value or revenue worth than low-end Louise, and you can see how marketing is personalized for each different segment. LeBron might receive emails twice per week, where Louise only receives once per week. And one of the easiest things to do that the major retailers are doing more effectively now that you can do as well is to optimize when your emails are sent. It can increase open rates. It can greatly increase conversion rates. So Louise may shop at 9 a.m. Miranda may shop at 9 p.m. why would they receive their emails at the same time? They should be sent emails and messaging at different times based on their habits. And currently, most all retailers batch and blast their messages at the same time each day, which results in customers receiving tens or hundreds of messages in their inbox at the same time. I'm sure some of you experience that daily like I do. But something as simple as using timing optimization for sending emails will dramatically increase open rates and engagement. Another example of segmentation is how retailers can place their customers into unique categories, such as high lifetime value or active versus churning customers to help improve their personalized marketing messaging. This is something you can do as well. Some of the optimization and prediction modeling that retailers used can also be used in your world. I think timing optimization, as we just talked about, as well as modeling customers' likelihood to purchase and churn time can also be used effectively. This slide is self-explanatory, but in the retail world, existing customers are worth 7 times more than newly acquired customers. So taking the time to send the right message to the right client can be done if you understand the customer's life cycle. And an easy way to understand this is to break down a life cycle campaign, which for the real estate world might be a tad bit different than for retailers. But during a relationship with a brand, the customer goes through different life cycle stages and must be engaged differently. Retention, we believe, begins at the time of first contact. We need to create a better, more personalized customer experience as soon as a client signs up with your brand. And this can be done when he drops in your office or requests more information about a property online or calls in on the phone. And most brands start with a welcome series, a welcome email, or anything that responds and touches the client all the way up to the first purchase. Once a client becomes a buyer or seller, the messaging needs to be sent at a frequency that makes sense for your business. If someone only buys a home once every 7 years, the message frequency would be less than if they're buying products every few months or weeks. But those customers need to be segmented and profiled so the messages hit home. Brands like Jacuzzi, who we work with, and Nautilus also face a similar 7 to 8 year lead time between customer orders, but both use predictive modeling and data science to increase engagement, to drive repeat purchases, and increase lifetime value from customers. And nobody likes losing customers, but it's an inevitable part of the business. But better lifecycle marketing allows you to identify churn in advance and engage those churning customers with win-back campaigns. So quickly, let's just take a look at a couple of case studies, one with Target and one with Honest Company, to see what they're doing to increase customer lifetime value and reduce churn. Target stores, obviously everybody's familiar with Target. Target could not come up with a solid way to match the thousands of products to each of their customers. So using data science and machine learning, they evaluated over 2.3 billion transactions and built models that showed which customers had the highest propensity to purchase specific products and segment those clients so they could send more personalized messaging to them. This basically resulted, excuse me, next slide. This resulted in a increase 6x return in coupon redemption and over 130% increase in engagement. And for a company the size of Target, that's a significant ROI gain. The next company is called The Honest Company, which is a home and baby products e-commerce company based in Los Angeles, owned in part by Jessica Alba, the actress, if anyone's familiar with her. And they were facing reduced margins as they were offering the same incentives, the same discounts to all of their customers, when in fact they had at least 2 to 3 different customer segments. And with data science, they determined that they had a large customer population that was interested in the celebrity of Jessica Alba or Oprah Winfrey, who also made product recommendations on the site, versus the other segment of shoppers of new moms or dads who were really only interested in the eco-friendly diapers and home products. Instead of sending out email blasts to the entire customer population. They segmented their clients and sent personalized messages to those groups. Their margins increased dramatically. By over 10%, and they saw conversions increase by 135%. So it's all about understanding who your customer is. In summary, it's really about focusing on your known customers. All of you have a lot of data you can use to your advantage versus spending time and effort acquiring new customers you know nothing about. If you personalize your marketing efforts based on customer segmentation and profiling, you won't get Amazon to death. Thanks, Victor.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. That was fascinating. I just want to remind everyone that during the webinar today, as you come up with questions for our panelists, please enter those questions into the GoToWebinar control panel. As you can see, there's a significant amount of science into honing your message to get there at the right time. And, you know, I really hadn't thought much about how to reactivate clients during this long span of 7 to 12 years between home purchases, but I appreciate you sharing some of that information with us. So we're going to do a quick poll. Just answer one of these things quickly, and we'll just move along in 1 second. But do your agents find email or paper more successful in reaching their sphere of influence? You still have, you know, this legacy experience that goes on in real estate where, you know, agents will contact their title company, they'll get a farming list, and they'll do direct marketing campaigns by mail, and those are still really successful. And the place where we see real estate falling down a little bit is by not doing a good job of not only acquiring the email addresses of customers, but moreover, segmenting those lists into groups so that you can more effectively communicate with them. So the, you know, some of the big changes that we're seeing today is that systems are being developed and deployed that allow that to happen a lot more easily. So let's close the poll here, and I think in real estate we continue to use both methods, and that will probably go on for quite a while. But I'd like to introduce our next panelist. So Anna's with Coldwell Banker, and her responsibility, if I'm not certain, I think they have somewhere between 80 and 100,000 sales associates who are affiliated with that brand. And her responsibility is to provide the communications that real estate agents can use to communicate with those different market segments of people. So with that, I'd like to welcome Anna, and again remind you as you have your questions, just continue to put them in the control panel as we go through today's webinar. So Anna, welcome.
Thank you so much, Victor, and thank you, Bill, the entire Improv team for having me today. So you're correct, Victor. We have about 80,000 agents across the world and thousands of companies. So we're very proud to support them with our tools and products on behalf of the Coldwell Banker brand. So today I want to talk to you about a really important topic. So where do real estate leads really come from? Now, for us, lead management is an incredibly important topic because we find there's a considerable misconception about what really drives leads in real estate. The lead generation process has changed tremendously over the past few years, and it really continues to evolve, particularly in the digital space. So what are the lead sources? It's critical for us and all of our affiliates to really continuously reevaluate their lead sources and ensure that we're making the most effective use of our budgets, our resources, and our time. On the Coldwell Banker brand side, we provide a myriad of ways for our agents and brokers to generate leads. Our newly redesigned web platforms drive leads off of listings, as well as agent and office profile pages from our responsive mobile site and dedicated iOS and Android apps. We're driving hundreds of thousands of online leads to our agents and brokers every day. While we are an established brand that does very well with repeat customers, 24 to 35-year-olds are actually our strongest demographic, particularly noteworthy since millennials have been been highly sought after by the industry. And our mobile platforms are also effective in generating prospective buyers and sellers. About half of our traffic comes from a mobile device, and this number really increases on nights and on weekends. We also manage the syndication of our brokers' listings to partner sites like the Zillow Group and Homes.com to really maximize that listing exposure and drive additional leads. Then we have our blog, which provides content targeted at homeowners and those actively in the home buying and selling process. So our content not only allows us to engage with those that may not be quite ready to be in the buying and selling process, but also provides a great source of content for our agents and brokers to leverage in their own social media efforts. And then there's our robust social media presence across places like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, and Google+, which further encourages customer engagement, as well as providing additional content for our affiliates to share with their customers. And not to mention all the local tools and platforms our agents and brokers are leveraging for lead generation on the local level, from local PR to video to old school strategies like newspaper ads and billboards. Our leads are coming in from a plethora of different sources. So the sources of leads in the real estate industry are really growing by the day, and I see them separated into three primary categories. First, we have our digital leads. These are the ones that are getting the lion's share of attention today and include leads from websites, mobile sites and apps, social media streams, and syndicated content. And even though I work in the digital space and it's very near and dear to my heart, I think there may be too much of a focus on this category because there are still a number of offline sources that are very effective in driving leads. The second category is outbound leads. This includes various methods of geo-targeting, from knocking on doors to distributing printed material. And inbound leads, those we've attracted to our agents and offices through various levels of outreach, from community service to yard signs to open houses. And again, this is the tip of the iceberg. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of lead sources. They vary from company to company and agent to agent. But it's critically important that we are aware of what they are and what sort of resources we're putting into them. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is which of these leads actually translate into business for us. So the more important question is number two. Where does the business really come from? One of the biggest challenges we see is that agents confuse lead generation, the act of simply getting a lead, with lead management and generating business from that lead. And of course, there's a huge disparity between generating a live lead and actually converting them. So step two is actually understanding how these leads convert to home sales transactions and understanding which of the lead types are even worth pursuing. So there's a well-known but oft-forgotten fact. About 3/4 of an agent's business will come from their existing sphere of influence. And while this number varies from agent to agent, it really makes up the significant majority for most of our experienced agents. And I think we all know that most agents, there isn't a significant enough focus on working in their sphere of influence. As Ken mentioned, these leads are worth about 7 times more than those leads that aren't existing customers. So it's really important to focus on them. Now, this next set of numbers is also very interesting. 10, 15, and 20. I wonder if anybody knows what these are. Well, this presents a challenge in managing that sphere of influence because what these numbers represent are the number of years that Gen Xers, the silent generation, and baby boomers will spend between home purchases according to NAR's survey of generational housing trends. That's 10 years for Gen Xers and the silent generation, 20 for boomers, and 15 for millennials. So the home buying cycle is pretty long, and certainly the turnover rate is longer than it was just a few years ago when we estimated it to be at about 7 to 8 years. So while an agent may have a large pool of prospects in their sphere, it's not always clear who the buyer or seller will be or how to most efficiently target them. So then let's go back to the other quarter of business that comes from an agent lead generation funnel. Now the challenge with those leads is it's not always easy to separate the qualified prospects from the tire kickers, particularly on digital platforms where we really don't know who's on the other end. Which brings me to the next number I'd like to share with you, 1%. So this is a little bit of a scary number for some, but based on the data we see, it's the approximate conversion rate for leads from online real estate listing portals. Yes, it takes about 100 of these online leads to grow a qualified buyer or seller. Again, this is agent reported, so we can argue that some of these leads will convert in a longer time period than the agent is actually willing to wait for. And I have to confess that at Coldwell Banker, our platform converts at rates that are at least 3 times that number. But as a general rule, online leads have very low conversion rates. So to sum it up, finding qualified leads becomes a little bit like looking for a needle in a haystack. And successful lead-generating companies aren't necessarily the ones that maximize the number of leads, but those that effectively work the haystack to find their needles. And at Coldwell Banker, that's why we believe lead management and lead incubation are so important and critical. So what's the right balance? Well, that's where partners like Imprev come in. Coldwell Banker is proud to have a network of very engaged agents that strive to provide attentive, high-touch services to home buyers and sellers. However, with hundreds, if not thousands of contacts in their sphere of influence, and with only a small percentage of online leads converting, our agents can't physically be in contact with everyone and need effective ways to stay top of mind with past and future clients. And the next little statistic for you, 1/3. So real estate agents may have the best intentions, but they are still struggling. This statistic represents the percentage of internet leads that are still unanswered after 2 days. Yes, 1/3 of all leads remain unanswered after 2 days, and this is based on our data. Agents have the best intentions, but with the large volume of leads, many of them unqualified, many simply give up and do not respond. And we know that most of these leads, if nurtured and followed up on appropriately, will convert, but many agents just don't have the patience to incubate them. So last year we partnered with Imprev to provide our agents and brokerages an effective way to stay in touch in a scalable way. It's a follow-up tool, an incubation tool, and a way for our agents to stay in touch with their sphere of influence all at once. Our e-marketing tool provides hundreds of branded designs, ranging from real estate focused, such as announcing a new listing, to holidays and general promotions. It's very intuitive to use, and we've gotten rave reviews from our agents. So with a huge group of geographically diverse agents, it was critical that our agents be able to integrate contacts easily, no matter where they were storing them. So in addition to conventional upload tools like CSV files or Excel, which, let's face it, are a foreign language to many agents, our e-marketing tool speaks seamlessly to LeadRouter, our Realogy proprietary lead routing tool, and also provides a widget that pulls directly from Gmail and Outlook, making the process of importing leads really easy, and it's probably one of my favorite features of the platform. And then when we traditionally think of an e-marketing system, we think of a direct mailing and email specifically, but there are so many more opportunities to interact with agents and their buyers and sellers by publishing the content or posting it on a social media website. And the Imprev tool allows us to do that. And while some agents have the time and ability to customize content, others are just looking for a way to stay top of mind. What's nice is that the agent can build a completely customized newsletter with their own content, or simply use a holiday card or standard creative. The system is able to accommodate various schedules and agent aptitudes. And then agents can incubate these leads by creating campaigns specific to the target group as Ken promoted, or generic campaigns such as holidays. So they can target these users and trip to them based on who they are and how we've targeted them. And at Coldwell Banker, we're huge proponents of content creation and storytelling. And we often get asked what type of content is most effective when engaging with home buyers, sellers, and homeowners. So what we found is that homeowners really gravitate towards articles about storage and entertaining. Sellers want to be as ready as possible and want to know exactly how they can plan and prepare before the home sale. And there seems to be a lot of trepidation among our buyers as they're looking for things to avoid and information about local areas to determine where they may want to settle down. So in summary, focus on the group or lead sources that are most likely to drive business for you. And for many of our agents, that should really be their sphere of influence. Then, as Ken mentioned, segment your sphere based on where your contacts are in the home buying cycle and their demographic. Then use content available to you, such as the content created by Coldwell Banker, articles of local interest, or e-cards provided by a company like Imprev to provide an appropriate and engaging way to stay in touch with your base. And that's it for me today. I wish you all the best as you and your agents fish for leads and help in identifying the lead management techniques that work for you and your company. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anna. That was extraordinary, and I really appreciate you sharing all the information about how you guys take a very careful look and a very careful approach to supporting agents as they communicate to consumers and all the variety of segments of the sales cycle that they're in. So we're going to do another quick a quick poll, and this poll is really there's no specific answer here. It's really an opinion poll to try and understand how many times agents have to contact before somebody becomes a buyer or a seller. A new company that's part of the Realogy group is called Zip Realty, and Zip Realty has a leader, Lanny Baker, and Lanny explained at the Inman conference this year that they recognize that from the time a lead is generated in their system to the time it actually converts is a period of about 11 months, which is pretty fascinating to me. And then you couple that with some interesting data points from the National Association of Realtors, which shows that, you know, as Anna articulated, about 75% of consumers or 75% of the transactions that an agent does are repeat and referral business. You begin to understand just how important this connectivity is between the real estate agent and their customer over quite a long period of time. And it's pretty fascinating to recognize, and I think that these numbers are pretty accurate, that, you know, the bulk of contacts is pretty significant. It looks to me like 70% of people believe that the conversion price is between 4 and 20 steps, which is a big number. But in any case, I want to just take this information now and turn it over to Bill Yemen from Imprev. Bill is one of the senior statesmen of our industry. He's one of the most learned men in online marketing, and men or women in online marketing and real estate. Imprev is, I believe, the largest provider of these services to the real estate industry. I know that many people who attend webinars like this are trying to understand what criteria would be used by a firm like Coldwell Banker or others to appreciate the features of these solutions that are going to allow them to effectively deliver on their strategy for online marketing and email marketing. So with that, let's welcome Bill, and he's going to take us through a few slides here, and then we'll get into Q&A. So Bill, are you with us?
I am here, Victor. Thanks very much for that introduction. Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning. As Victor mentioned, really what I want to talk about is, as you've heard from Ken and Anna about the world that they're in, and with Ken's experience in the retail world, the sort of profound impact that lead management and lead incubation can have on the bottom line from a dollars and cents standpoint. And then from Anna's perspective, the investment that they've made to provide their agent community with the kind of tools that helps that individual find that needle in a haystack. Let's say that you're a broker now and you've decided that it is time for you to provide these sorts of technologies to your agent community. What do you use, or what sort of criteria do you need to be able to evaluate the different options that are out in the marketplace? So what I want to provide is a bit of a scorecard, if you will, of some criteria that you might want to think about as you evaluate different platform alternatives to meet your lead management and lead incubation requirements. And in essence, there are four areas that I'm going to talk about. If you could pop back one more. 4 areas I'm going to talk about. Those are specifically the capabilities. What does the platform do? The content, we've heard a lot about the importance of that content, and is the content going to resonate with who that target market is? Usability, is the platform going to be adopted by the agent community? We know that that's one of the most important things in this industry. Just by providing the tool, it may not be used if it's not easily usable. And then support, is the platform and the company behind the platform going to support the needs of you and your agent community? So let's dive into the first of those, capabilities. Of course, this is an area that you have to focus on in terms of, does the platform provide to you all the capabilities that you need to achieve the kind of benefits that Ken and Anna have talked about? So the capabilities to be thinking about include a wide range of marketing content. I thought the poll question was very interesting. 71% of you said that email was the most effective way to reach the sphere of influence. 29%, almost a third, said that paper is still an effective way. And I bet you if we had asked a third option there, is it a combination of both, we would have had a number of people who would say it's not just email, it's just not snail mail, but it's a combination of both. So you need to find a platform that's going to have that wide range of marketing content. Postcards that are both print and digital, newsletters that are print and digital, that have some component of video. With the attention span of today's consumer, you've got to have video as part of that communication mix as well. And it's important to have a platform that supports that broad array of communication styles as you've got different types of individuals that you're communicating with. It's also got to be very easy to segment those prospects. And I'll talk a little bit about segmentation later, but have it be almost automated so that as an individual is coming into the technology or the platform, the segmentation, what kind of messaging that you're going to have to communicate to that prospect is very easy for an agent to do. It certainly has to have that ongoing prospect nurturing from an ongoing basis. An agent shouldn't have to take action to nurture a client over a 3, 6, 9, 12, multiple year period. Anna alluded to this. It's got to have social media integration. Again, it may just not be email and paper mail that you're going to use to communicate with the sphere of influence, but communicating through Facebook, through Pinterest, through Google+, all the different vehicles that certainly are now a huge part of the communication platform that we all have. And that needs to be a platform for future expansion. I firmly believe that in so much as we can consolidate technologies or tools for our agents onto a single platform, the better off we're going to be, so that agents don't have to have a learning curve where every time they need to do a specific marketing task, they need to go to a different tool to do that. Let's talk again about content. So content is the thing that allows for varied levels of segmentation. It may be that you've got folks that are in the sphere of influence that you really don't know what their demographic is or what their target interests are. So you need to have some sort of content that's going to be what I'll say is horizontal in nature, that speaks to everyone. And some of those are ones that you'd expect. You know, a holiday campaign is certainly a horizontal marketing campaign. Or it may be campaigns about what's happening in the local market. But those that speak to the interests of a very broad set of recipients. In so much as though you can as an agent, it's important to have that deeper segmentation based on the demographic interests. So I meet somebody at an open house and I know they're an active buyer or an active seller, or that they're a renter and they're moving to own, or they're downsizing as they've empty nested, or whatever that sort of demographic is. In so much as we understand that, being able to segment that content, that individual, and have content that speaks to that target demographic, the better off we're going to be, so that what we're sending them is going to be relevant. And then again, it may be that there's simply geographic segmentation, a tool that allows you to say that everyone in a particular zip code, 98102, is going to get some content that's specific to that geographic area. And finally, that content needs to have the ability to be sent on a specified date, like a holiday campaign. Everybody gets their Halloween card on October 30th, or rolling as prospects are added. If I've got an active buyer campaign, when I add that active buyer, I want that campaign to start for them and have it roll as I add new people over time. Usability is core. Providing a tool to the agent community that isn't inherently usable is not going to be something that's going to be adopted, obviously. The CEO of our company, Renwick Congdon, has a mantra that basically said a user interface is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it isn't very good. And we sort of have that mantra about everything that we do at Imprev, to try to provide a platform that is very easy to use, that's graphically designed so that an agent can very quickly, even if they're a casual user, be able to navigate the application and be able to accomplish the kind of lead management and lead incubation that we're talking about. It also needs to have the ability that Anna alluded to, as the ability to easily build that address book, do that segmentation, and add contacts from many external sources. Agents are going to have contacts in myriads of places, and it needs to be easy for them to get them into the nurturing platform so that they can start to be able to communicate with that sphere of influence. Tracking is important. You need to understand not only that you're communicating with a sphere of influence, but how effective that communication is. How many emails did you send? How many were opened? How many times was it opened? Do you have folks unsubscribing from the emails that you're sending? That not only lets you know that you're communicating, but the effectiveness of that communication. And finally, the platform needs to be mobile. You've got agents that are on the go. They don't want to be in the office. They want to be able to do marketing from the driveway of the active seller that they're working with. And finally, support. You need to work with a company that's going to be there when you need them. There needs to be the ability for agents to have self-serve support, looking at FAQs about how to do something with the application, hotline via phone and email, and really an infrastructure that's been proven. If you're going to put this kind of platform in place, it needs to be rock solid. It needs to always be available when the agent's going to need it. The application availability itself and the ability to scale to millions of emails per day as you've got that volume of infrastructure required for the large volume of folks that we want to communicate with through the sphere of influence marketing. So those are the things to look for. What are the things to avoid? And these are just coming from my experience in the industry. Really 3 things to be cautious about. The first is one that I've alluded to in terms of multiple point solutions. I think, as we all know, it's hard enough, especially again with the casual user, to have an agent go in and use a tool to do a specific thing, and then the next day have to go into a different tool to do something else, and yet again a third tool to do a third marketing task. In so much as we can have a common platform that does multiple things for the agent, whether that's creation of marketing content, lead management, lead incubation, etc., the better off we'll be. And having multiple point solutions that don't integrate together is only going to drive up that learning curve for the agent community. I also recommend avoiding shiny objects. This is an interesting industry in that there's constantly a shiny object that does one thing very well that might be very interesting today, but next year or next week or next month, it's not going to be relevant. So make sure that the investments that you're making in these sorts of technologies are ones that are there for the long haul. And then finally, there are some very perhaps overly complex customer relationship management platforms in the marketplace that are just more than, quite honestly, real estate agents need. So make sure that you're not providing something that maybe does everything that everyone would ever want, but is so complicated that no one can ever actually get it to do what they need. So with that, Victor, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to the group today.
Excellent. Well, I think everybody online here has appreciated all 3 of your presentations. I'm certainly uplifted by it all. At this point, we're going to just stop the recording, but we're going to begin now to answer questions that anyone in the audience might have. So I would like to ask, so I see the questions coming in. So